they do exist or they don't exist. They keep telling us they don't exist, but they block every opportunity.
I saw 6 lights over the airport in absolute uniform in a V shape, and I reported it.
Welcome back to Grave Confessions, everybody. My name is Dave. Real quick, if this is the first time to my channel, hit that like and subscribe button and that notification icon. That way you are notified whenever content drops like this. So, okay. Big news, right? Oversight Committee decided that they were going to look into the UFO situation. I like how they came out. They came out today and said, you know what? Either there is something there or there isn't. We're going to get clear definitions of what is going on. They're tired of being dodged by the Pentagon. The Pentagon cannot dodge Congress. That's a big no-no. So I like to see that. So let's go ahead and roll that clip really quick.
Today, I'm Tim Burchett from Tennessee's 2nd Congressional District, and we're going to have some, the rest of the Congress folks are going to fill in here in a second. Next Wednesday, July 26th at 10 a.m., the House Oversight Committee will hold a hearing on unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAPs. I prefer to call them UFOs. It will be held by the Oversight Committee on National Security, the Border, and Foreign Affairs. The witnesses will be as follows. David Grush, he's a decorated former combat officer who served in Afghanistan, and he recently told the world news about his experiences serving on a UAP task force led by the U.S. Navy from 2019 to 2022. Commander David Fravor, he's a former Navy commander who shot the famous Tic Tac video that you've seen. It's on YouTube. It's 60 Minutes did a special on it. He did that in 2004 during a routine training flight over the Pacific Ocean. Ryan Graves, he's a former Navy pilot. He reported multiple UAP encounters during training flights. And the interesting thing about Ryan was that he warned the Pentagon that these encounters are putting our pilots at risk. He attended the hearing held by the House Intelligence Committee last year, but was not allowed to speak. If you all remember, he wasn't even allowed admittance. He had to have someone gave him press credentials to get in, which I thought really stunk. Last year, the House Intelligence Committee held a hearing on UAPs. They brought in some Pentagon bureaucrats who only had 2 answers to the questions they were asked. I don't know, or that's classified. This hearing is going to be different. We're going to have witnesses who can speak frankly to the public about their experiences. We've had a heck of a lot of pushback about this hearing. We've had members of Congress who fought us. We've had members of the intelligence community and also the Pentagon. Even NASA backed out on us. There are a lot of people who don't want this to come to light. I've even tried to introduce an amendment to the Federal Aviation Administration Reauthorization Bill, and all that would do would require the Federal Aviation Administration to report UAP sightings by commercial pilots to Congress. I was told the intelligence community shut it down. This is ridiculous, folks. They do exist or they don't exist. They keep telling us they don't exist, but they block every opportunity for us to get a hold of the information to prove that they do exist.
Really cool to see this happen right now, right? I mean, this is almost suspicious because NASA came out, 2 weeks ago and said, hey, there are flying objects on the Earth. I mean, they went full public. So there are flying objects on this Earth. We don't know what they are. They're spherical. They're making logical movements. And they're kind of reaching out to the public, right? And let's go ahead and roll that really quick. You guys have to see this.
This is an example of one that I showed at the hearing recently. This is a spherical orb, metallic, in the Middle East, 2022, by an MQ-9. I will come back to the sensor question that David raised here in a moment. This is a typical example of the thing that we see most of. We see these all over the world, and we see these in making very interesting apparent maneuvers.
Take a look really quick back at 1966. Dr. Alan Hynek was investigating UFO phenomenon in a project called Project Blue Book for the government. And he went up to Michigan. There was a sighting. A farmer had said they saw something fly through the sky and land on his property. Dr. Hynek investigated with the local sheriff. and the local sheriff and him came back to the sheriff's office, and Dr. Heineck said, hey, I've got to get a hold of Washington right now. Goes in, talks to Washington. The sheriff's like, hey, what do we have? Dr. Heineck's like, sorry, I don't know what it is. I don't know what you have. So, I need to talk to Washington. So he does. He calls Washington. After a lengthy phone call, he comes back in and says, you have swamp gas. It's like, okay, this isn't swamp gas. Phoenix lights. Oh, those are flares. Do you want to see what a flare looks like? Let's roll what a flare looks like. Yeah, okay, you see what I'm saying, right? This is a flare. These are the Phoenix lights. See the difference? Okay, now that we're on the same page, flares, UFOs, different things, right? What everybody saw and recorded was different than what the news outlets were reporting. Now, fast forward, we have years, right, between then and now of people, reporting unidentified flying objects, tic-tac-like objects flying through the sky. You have spherical objects flying all over the globe now. And quite recently, fireballs falling from the sky. Green fireballs, might I add. I mentioned that in a previous video. I'm not exactly sure how many different types of rocks are in space, but I'm pretty sure they don't all burn green in the atmosphere. Same composition, same size, flying towards Earth. And they all don't just start showing up at once. That everybody is now seeing, right? And I think this has been going on a lot longer than just this recent year, right? Because you have what happened in Las Vegas, right? What we saw here in Northwest Ohio, and pretty much all over the world. They're showing these green fireballs heading to Earth, exploding. No one's saying a word about it. No investigations. And now there's no meteor, right? Just like in Las Vegas. Poof, everything gone. Let's roll another clip. This one's cool. This is from the same news outlet that reported, I think it's ABC, CBS 8, something like that, in Las Vegas, that reported the family that called 911, right? And they're like, hey, there's aliens in their backyard. Well, their neighbor had caught something on their Ring camera. It was a really eerie, mechanical ship sounding noise. I almost want to say almost like an airliner. Giant flash of light. And they were like, oh yeah, that must have been it. No, this was recorded earlier than the family that reported aliens in Las Vegas. Let's roll that clip.
Security camera video was recorded in mid-April, according to the man who first posted the clip. He doesn't want his name used, but says the recording was from a fireball that passed over his home in the southwestern part of the valley 2 weeks prior to the alleged alien encounter. The family declined to be interviewed by us, but members have spoken elsewhere and stick to their claims of seeing aliens in the backyard. Dozens of people on social media have analyzed and dissected the images with various claims of aliens spotted in the shadows. Police do not believe this was a hoax call.
Now that we're focusing on it, right? Because now we have so many people reporting the same things instead of all these different reports, different lights, different shapes. It's all now it's uniform. And I know I had someone tell me once, like, no, I think it's awfully funny that you could see something a couple of weeks ago, and then suddenly you got something again on camera. And I told him, like, you know what? We live in a society where everybody is so consumed in the crowd, right? We have people walking around, they're not paying attention to one another. They don't even say hi anymore. You can go to McDonald's and order food, and you don't even have to talk to anybody. You just go to a kiosk. It's so unfamily friendly. And then we're tied to all of these devices that consume our attention, where our faces are planted in these smartphones and in these tablets and all the technology today, that nobody, and I mean nobody bothers to look up anymore. I can help with that. This is it. This is the cure. This is going to help you find UFOs. This is going to help you see what we were seeing. You see this? This little device, let me hold it upright, right? You see this? This smartphone that makes us so smart, which actually it is taking away from us. And you know what? I don't have a single phone number memorized in this phone. It does it for me, right? There's all these little things that you don't have to think about anymore, just like what you're doing with your time. This, well, we're just gonna put that right there. Wow, that was easy. Phone down. It is no longer by our side, in our possession. It is over there on a stand. This would be a good time to go outside and look up. Look at the sky. Buy a telescope. Buy a bird watcher binoculars. Something that gets you interested in your surrounding. In the sky. Buy flight charts. Learn how to read and map the stars and how the celestial objects move in the sky, because when you're asking questions like, how do you know you saw something unidentified and you don't know yourself, go look. Don't, oh, let me look it up on my phone. Stop doing that. Trust your eyes. Walk outside. I promise you will see something you didn't know was there. At any given night, you can go outside and see a dozen different aircraft, airplanes, maybe a helicopter, quite a few passenger jets, a satellite or two, International Space Station. That's really cool to see. If you've never seen it, learn how to track that and take a look at it. And now you're focusing on all these things around you, and then you will notice something out of place. You're like, okay, well, that wasn't there before. I wonder what that is. Or I've seen the moon 1,000 times. I have all these pictures of the moon. But what is that? There's a shining object on the moon. Where did that come from? Very interesting. What is this? You know, in the shadow of the moon, suddenly there's a bright spot in the middle of a crater of the moon where there's no light. What is that? Well, take a look. Look into it. That way you don't have so many people saying you're lying, that's not true, and you don't have government and news outlets coming after you going, no, that's swamp gas. Those are flares. When you can clearly see the objects right in front of you, and, oh, if you're really, really attached to this thing, you can buy a little mechanism, like I have, for your telescope that puts this on your telescope, and you can just hit a button and it can record absolutely everything you're looking at. That way, everybody that looks at you and goes, hey, that, you know, how do you know it's real? You can go, oh, I have 64 megapixel camera. You know, the new Google phones are amazing, by the way. But you have these cameras now that are better than anything they had back in the 60s. Anything we had a year ago, right? You put that on your telescope, hit record, and anything you're seeing, it is seeing and it is recording, and no one can say that isn't real. The government can no longer say those are flares. That swamp gas that flew across the sky, that looks like a ship with an antenna on it, right? Interesting looking swamp gas. I would hate to see the wildlife. Interesting. And now we have, let's list it, right? Operation Blue Book, 1966. We have the Arizona Lights, Las Vegas, and then we found out Ring camera footage even before Vegas incident was reported. Their neighbors had caught something on the Ring camera that no one can explain, that nobody, and I mean nobody, reported. I find that extremely odd. Nobody said a word about it except the neighbor that no one heard, right? Interesting. So it makes me wonder, who has something to lose if we all find out that extraterrestrials have been here, that are among us? Are they protecting the extraterrestrials in some kind of intergalactic open border scenario where they're like, you know what, we're welcoming them here just like we welcome everybody else in America, which is fine. Okay, let's throw it out there. We are a country of immigrants. Okay, my personal family isn't from the United States. You know, my grandparents migrated here from Europe. So Yeah, you know, we can all relate to one another on that, and if that's the case, sure, why not? But what's with all the secrecy? Unless somebody has something to either gain or lose, and that something must be so big, they're willing to risk lives, lying to everyone to cover it up for decades. Special government projects. It's so bad that we have an oversight committee in the government, Congress, going, stop lying to us. We don't appreciate it. You guys work for us, so you need to start telling us the truth. And now it is so bad, they're going to make it completely public. And I think that's next week. So more to come on this, folks. I'm really interested in seeing what the oversight committee finds after they question the Pentagon. And they have their witnesses come forward, and they have military witnesses, credible people that were worried about being sidelined and having their careers ruined because those are the policies in place in government and the military. If you see something that doesn't fall under their guidelines as acceptable parameters of reporting, right? The government hiding something so big that it will change the course of humanity. Who knows? All I do know is what I saw was real. What these folks are seeing, they 100% believe is real. What Kurt Russell saw that day he flew into Phoenix was real enough to him and to thousands of others that they all reported, and the government got involved and said, nope, flares. So real that all the news outlets were singing the same tune. Even the news outlets that oppose one another. Okay? You have your right and left wing news outlets that are opposing, they're all singing the same tune. That bothers me. Again, it could just all be a bunch of lights in the sky that we don't understand because we are a very small speck in the spectrum of the universe. Alright, folks, remember, like and subscribe, and hit that notification icon. That way you are notified when more content drops, just like what you just saw. And remember, the truth is somewhere up there.
Retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, call it spacecraft if you will, non-human, exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed.